Hey guys, what's up? It's JT here with another video. Today we're going to be talking about a topic I have all but nearly forgotten until I was looking at one of my older videos and I saw I had uploaded a running away from military school video. It was a life story I did like some years ago. And I suddenly received, when you get that feeling of nostalgia when you get exposed to something like that you had associated with your childhood or whatever. That's exactly what I got. It was freaking one of those like really surreal experiences and I was like, wow. I have to do some more stories. I wasn't there for too long at that military school, but I have so many stories, and I decided I was like, you know what? I'm going to do a story about one of the times I was there. So anyways, let's just get right into this. So if you guys don't already know, I was at the school called Valley Forge Military Academy in college. If you don't know the school, which you probably don't, it's over in Wayne, Pennsylvania. I was there when I was about 14 years old. I had just finished middle school, and then that was it. I went over to military school. During my time there, when a student was new to the school, regardless of the grade, they were exposed to a beautiful molding process of turning a nice, young, innocent high schooler, usually not innocent, high schooler, into a young man. The process typically, included what you'd expect: intense running, sleepless nights, being yelled at all day by, these horrible freaking NCOs, which are non-commissioned officers as they were named. I mean, the military school is very much drafted after, takes a lot of influence from the real military. And ours was structured in a way of like the British military. So our ranks had a lot of British military ranks. And so that was how ours went. But anyways, it was very, very similar to that, obviously to a degree that's not as intense. Obviously, I'm not gonna try to make this experience like it was Navy SEALs training, but I'm just saying it was similar in that they took the the basic boot camp things and they implemented it into the school. So a lot of the biggest problem, what people don't realize, is that we went through a lot of boring, monotonous tasks. I mean, cleaning was probably one of the worst things we ever did. And another thing too is that I shit you not, at some point, they would make us sit in front of our barrack dorms with a chair and our elbows outwards reading a book. In this case, it was our cadet pledge, until we had memorized a page and a half, or your arms gave out. And if your arms gave out, you had to put the book down. You had to say I was a failure, and you had to speak in the third person. So like I said, literally just like a scene from Full Metal Jacket where you speak from like the third person. So you'd have to say, this cadet believes he is a failure and needs to be severely punished. And so then that's it. The NCO would take you outside, you'd go for a run, and then you'd come back into your barracks room and you'd have to sleep the night sweaty until you'd have to wait until it was usually after PT in the morning, which was like at 5:30, that you could shower again. But you were sleeping in a sweaty freaking bed because that's what you did the night before. You were also doing PT just because you couldn't remember your cadet pledge because you couldn't hold your arms out enough. So that was the thing that happened. That's one of the boring, monotonous things we had to do. But that one wasn't even nearly as bad as about the one that we're going to go into the story. So this one is probably the most painful part of the training period. I mean, when it happened to us plebes, which is what we were called. We were called plebs. Plebs was like, it wasn't a derogatory term. It was actually the term coined to kids who were just into the school. Like I was saying earlier, it's like as soon as you came into the school, it didn't matter what grade you were, you started out as a pleb, and that was just kind of it. It was kind of like calling yourself a recruit, but without calling it recruit. It's called pleb. So we got this thing called a smoke session, and that's, you're probably wondering, what the hell did you guys do that you would garner such an intense training exercise? Well, it wasn't the company. It was these two fucksticks in our company that made us all get the shit stick of the deal. Two plebs of our company thought it would be a fantastic idea to get a coat hanger and brand themselves. What did they get, you're asking? Like, they probably got some cool patriotic flag, or maybe they got their mom's name, or maybe they got their date of birth. All those things suck, but let's just say they got those things, right? No, motherfucker. They got a breast cancer logo. They could barely bend the coat hanger enough, and so they just lit it up with a lighter that they had, and they branded themselves in the chest. So that was awesome, and that was really smart on their part. Anyways, it was time for shower time, which was after third mess, and you can already guess what happened. They line up for the showers, and it's not open showers, but we line up, semi sort of naked with the towels around our waists, and that's it. You go inside to the showers. And before that, you'd usually have a master sergeant or a staff sergeant usually walk through down the hall just to make sure everyone's got their toothbrush, everyone's got all their necessary needs for the shower. Next thing you know, here's a character for our story, the main character of our story, the man, the myth, the legend, Master Sergeant Klein. when he saw their brands, he proceeded to tear them a new asshole like I've never seen anyone do before. I mean, this guy was, I'll never forget him. He was a junior. I mean, it's been so many years, and I will never forget him. He was a junior in the school. He was 6'3", 230 pounds. He looked like he was jacked, he was jacked, actually, and he looked like a Green Beret. Like, you did not want to get caught doing anything by this guy. I mean, if you were doing anything bad, I mean, something sort of sketchy, not even if it was sketchy, if you were just looking the wrong way and you didn't refer to him as his name, that's it. You were donezo. I mean, you got destroyed. He would make us do the worst push-ups. I mean, you can even... It's insane. The push, and you think, oh yeah, well, can't handle some push-ups, man? Like, come on, what's wrong with you? No. I'm telling you, boys, these push-ups were insane. You'd go down, right? He would say, all right, down. You know, he'd tell the whole company to get down their faces. You go down in the push-up position, and he would, if you were one of the unlucky ones, in this case it was these two fucksticks, he would put his boot on your back, and you'd have to stay in the push-up position. You just stay there for a little bit. And then it'd probably be like a minute or two, and sometimes he'd say shake, and you'd have to move left and right as you were in the push-up position. And finally he would say get up, right? And you wouldn't get up. You would just, get up from the push-up position, not like stand up. You just, finish the push-up. And that would be one. So these push-ups, just to do 10, took probably like 15 minutes, and you couldn't quit. I mean, if you did, you're going for a run, and you're getting another sweaty night. So that's not fun, and nobody likes to sleep in a sweaty bed. That's not fun. So we end up getting this thing called a smoke session. This act of treachery was the worst PT exercise ever, and it technically constituted as hazing, but the sessions only ever took place when the admins of the barracks were out for the day. So nobody dared snitch on the NCOs because that would just make it worse for everybody, so that wasn't even an option in our brains. So that was like, no, we're not reporting this. Anyways, the workouts always took place after third mess. Even though PT was done by 5:30, like 6, right before first mess, they would do an additional PT for those who needed the extra motivation, as they coined it. But in this case, it was for the whole company, just because 2 fucksticks messed up. So we used to have to run up this thing called Cardiac Hill. Another thing I will never forget. This was pretty much a 90-inch incline. It looked like something out of Mount fucking Everest. It was summertime, but it was intense, boys, all right? So you'd have to sprint up this hill, right? So you sprint up a bit, and then you'd have to bear crawl down, right? Nothing too bad, right? You're like, okay, listen, what's a little cardio going to do? It's probably just motivating you guys, right? No, well, here's the caveat. You couldn't quit, and you couldn't stop, and you couldn't go back home to your barracks until you vomited, right? So that was the genius behind all of these NCOs. They were like, we're really going to teach these guys a lesson for letting 2 of their plebe brothers get tattoos or brands, So you run up and down, and it took me, I don't even know how many times. I mean, it took me probably five rounds going up and down, and you really wanted to push it because you just wanted to vomit and get out of there. Because if you didn't vomit, it was a whole other problem. I mean, I'm sure kids didn't vomit. I mean, I always did every time, but I'm sure kids didn't. And at some point, there was like 5 or 10 kids left. They probably just let them go. But for the most part, you had to vomit. And everyone that I knew at that school vomited on those smoke sessions. I mean, it was bad. There was something cathartic, I will say, in hindsight, about that experience where just seeing everybody in slow motion vomiting as you're going up the thing, and you're trying to avoid the vomit as you're going to the bear crawl down the hill. Like, I don't know, in hindsight, there was something kind of almost mystical and cool about it. But at the time, it fucking sucked. I hated it. It was horrible. They used to say things like, y'all need to puke the weakness out of you weak bitches. And it was just intense, man. Like a whole nother levels type of stuff. Anyways, I finally puked some stomach bile, and I'm off to the dorm. After, 3 of these sessions, I finally smartened up about this. And me and a couple of my plebe brothers, we figured it out that these smoke sessions always take place after third mess, like right afterwards. And that was done to help us out throw up because we just got in a full stomach. But sometimes even if you didn't eat and you had a good meal, it wasn't that easy to vomit sometimes. So we realized that if during third mess you just drink a shit ton of milk, like an ungodly amount of milk, and I'm not talking 2%, I'm not talking fat-free, boys, I'm talking full fucking meat, like full milk, right, whole milk. You drink that, first round of the smoke session, you're down the floor, you're donezo. And they didn't care. The only rule was that you vomited, and they stuck by it. I have to say, they were men of their word, and they stood by it. So as long as you vomited, you were good to go. So we drank a shit ton of milk once we found out, because they always announced that we had a smoke session. That was another thing they always stood by, was that if there was a smoke session, you knew from the beginning of the day, so you were just dreading the end of the day, right? Which is normally used as something against us, because it's made us dread that night. But we ended up using it to our advantage, because we're like, all right, well, we know it's going to happen in a couple hours, so third mess, we're pounding down some milk. So that's what we do. We'd pound down And that's it. After, like I said, after the third smoke session, after every session after that, they didn't get too bad because it was like, 2 up and downs, done. I was just vomiting all over the freaking place. I mean, I have to think, like, I think about it now, like, being an NCO in that school must have been so freaking cool. Like, just telling kids, like, oh yeah, by the way, we're up that fucking hill, and then they just vomit, like, oh my god. I'm sure they had the time of their lives, but they were pretty serious, I have to say. None of them were laughing at us. They were just like, they were really trying to motivate us, I guess. But anyways, that's my story, guys. I really hope you guys enjoyed this, and if you guys want these type of videos, like I said, I just realized I had this whole set of experience on my back, and I wasn't there for too long, but I have quite a bit of experiences and really funny things that happened there. And if you guys like these military school stories, let me know down in the comments. I'll keep uploading them. Any other videos you guys want me to upload too, I'll be sure to leave that down in the comments. And anyways, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.